Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving into an absolutely game-changing psychological concept. It's designed to help you completely rebuild your relationship standards from the ground up, and honestly, to help you stop settling for the absolute bare minimum. If you've ever felt like you're constantly walking on eggshells, or if you catch yourself feeling overwhelmingly thankful just because your partner didn't start an argument, well, you're in the right place. Picture this highly relatable scenario. You're talking to a friend, and they say the quote we're exploring today.
We hadden zo'n fijne avond. Hij was gewoon aardig.
Translated, that means, we had such a nice evening, he was just nice. They feel immensely grateful simply because their partner didn't start a fight or wasn't totally cold. Now, anyone listening from the outside is probably thinking, wait a minute, being nice to your partner isn't some massive achievement, is it? But this isn't just a one-off comment. It is actually a symptom of a much larger, deeply ingrained survival system. So before we go further, we really need to nail down what we mean by a crumb. Think about it. When you were literally starving, even a dry, stale crumb of bread tastes like an absolute feast, right? But the reality is, it doesn't actually sustain you. It just kind of keeps the hunger alive. In relationships, a crumb is the absolute bare minimum of human decency. It's just the absence of pain. But because you might be emotionally starved, you start to mistake this basic everyday decency for genuine love or exceptional effort. And suddenly, you're throwing a parade for the absolute minimum. To fix this, we're going to put on our architect hats today. We're going to survey your faulty foundation, tear down what isn't serving you, and build a completely new blueprint for your life. We'll do this in 5 phases. First, the lie of love. Second, the danger of doing nothing. Third, shifting to a new baseline. Fourth, 7 steps to design. And finally, your new blueprint. Let's jump in. All right, phase 1, the lie of love. Or why an evening without a fight feels like a gift. Let's take a hard look at the innocent lie you've been telling yourself just to survive. What's really wild here is understanding why you tell this lie. The truth is, you aren't actually deciding what's enough anymore. A system of scarcity, one you probably built years ago just to protect yourself, is making those choices for you. The absence of pain has become so rare in your life that you've started treating basic, fundamental respect as this rare, precious gift. Without even realizing it, you are signing off on a relationship standard that is entirely based on deprivation. Moving on to phase 2, the danger of doing nothing and the 4 phases of decay. You might think that just keeping the peace and doing nothing is a neutral stance, but it really, really isn't. Listen, staying passive isn't a pause button. It is a daily, active investment in the decay of your own boundaries. We see this happen in 4 sequential phases. First, you adapt. You manage the other person's mood and lower your expectations before you even open your mouth. Second is normalization. Your baseline shifts so incredibly slowly you don't even notice it's happening. It's kind of like a room getting colder and colder while you just keep putting on more sweaters. Third, you transfer the pattern. Your kids watch what you accept and they learn from it, or maybe you start accepting crumbs at work too. And finally, the erosion of self. You completely lose your internal compass. You are literally paying the highest price possible for this illusion of peace. By staying in this system, you are just burning through your energy, constantly scanning the room to manage someone else's mood. You're trading your own self-respect for what is essentially fake harmony. You are wasting years of your life trying to optimize a foundation that honestly never should have been built in the first place. And perhaps most tragically, you lose your ability to even recognize what a healthy relationship looks like, meaning you pass this broken standard right down to the next generation. Okay, phase 3, shifting to a new baseline. It is time to restore your internal compass. We can't just react anymore. We have to actively reclaim your internal measuring stick. This requires a massive fundamental mindset shift. On one side, we have crumb thinking. This is where you're passively surviving on scraps, feeling wildly grateful just because nothing bad happened, and staying in a situation entirely out of fear that you might get even less. On the flip side, we have architect thinking. This is where you are actively designing a life of abundance. Here, peace is the absolute minimum baseline. You stay by choice, not by fear, and you consciously break this destructive pattern for anyone who might be watching you. Which brings us to phase 4, 7 steps to design, a concrete approach. Time to put on your hard hat, folks, because we are moving into the actual, actionable steps to architect your new life. Insight is amazing, but insight without action is just a nice story, right? These first 4 steps are all about anchoring your new reality through small, daily repetitions. You can't redesign what you can't clearly see. So we start by mapping out exactly where you're accepting the bare minimum. Then we challenge that perception, change the way you talk about it, and finally, verbalize your brand new design out loud. Let's look a little closer at step 1, the crumb diary. This one is a bit of a reality check. Writing down every single time you feel relieved over basic human decency forces you to confront what you've been putting up with. Try this. For just 1 week, write down every time you feel thankful that a fight didn't happen. Then, look at that list and ask yourself, which of these moments would I be completely embarrassed to brag about to my best friend? And that flows perfectly into the friend test. This is such a powerful question because it instantly yanks you out of the relational fog and gives you an objective, outside perspective. When you're in the thick of a relationship, you are incredibly biased by your own habits. But if you look at your own diary entries as if they were written by your best friend, what advice would you give them? I bet you tell them they deserve the whole meal, not just a crumb. Now, to make sure this house stands the test of time, we build long-term stability through steps 5 to 7. You absolutely have to expand your sources of self-worth outside of just your romantic relationship. Because if your relationship is your only source of value, you'll be terrified to lose it, and that makes you so vulnerable to accepting crumbs. But by investing in your friendships, your career, and your personal growth, you build a really stable external baseline. I really want to highlight step 6 here because it's a total game changer. We almost always think of boundaries as these defensive, aggressive walls we throw up when we're angry. But an architect doesn't build out of anger, right? A boundary is simply a blueprint. It calmly, clearly dictates what fits in your house and what doesn't. When you communicate your boundaries as an architectural design rather than some kind of revenge tactic, all that defensiveness melts away. You're actually inviting the other person to help you build, if they're up to the task. And here we are at phase 5, your new blueprint, what you choose starting today. This is the final phase. It is your declaration of independence from the crumb system. This is where you finalize the design and actually begin construction. You must make a conscious choice today to stop negotiating with yourself over what is acceptable. No more applauding the mere absence of pain. No more confusing survival-level gratitude with real, genuine love. From this day forward, peace is no longer a gift you hope for. It is the fundamental, non-negotiable baseline. You are the architect of your own standards now, and you alone get to decide exactly what kind of house you are going to live in. I want to leave you with a deeply provocative thought, perfectly captured by this final Dutch phrase. Welke krummel vier je vandaag nog als een maaltijd, which translates to, which crumb in your life are you still celebrating as a full meal today? Take a really hard look at your foundation. Put down the crumb and ask yourself what you're going to start building tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.